Boston's next election takes place on September 24th, and voters will have a chance to pick from a large number of candidates for city council. They'll also be faced with some new equipment for voting to help them get ready. The city's holding an election expo this Saturday at the Reggie Lewis Center in Roxbury. To tell us about the event is the civic engagement coordinator from the Boston Election Department, Kyron Owens. And to tell us about the equipment is the president of LHS Associates, Jeff Silvestro. Thank you both for being with us.
How you doing, Chris? Thank you.
I will start with Kyron. Why change the equipment this year?
It's a part of just planning for the future and making sure that we have sustainable voting equipment in the city of Boston.
Jeff, what's different about the equipment that people are going to be using in September?
Really not that much. The process for voting is going to remain the same. They're going to be handed a paper ballot. They're going to take that ballot to a voting booth, fill in an oval using a pen, and then bring that ballot to the machine and put it through the tabulator as they would have before. The biggest difference they'll notice is a large 6.5-inch LCD screen that if there is any reason for the machine to give messages to the voter, it's going to be clearer and easier for the voter to read and understand what's going on.
Well, one thing that surprised me about the current method is how simple it looked. You have this piece of cardboard, some things to fill in, you have a pen. It's almost like nothing could go wrong, but there's one thing I worried about, and that is, what if my mark went outside the line, and what if it wasn't red, white? I mean, do you have to deal with that problem?
It's the same as before, again, with the oval being filled in. There is what's called a voting target area. That's what that oval represents. And as long as the majority of the oval is filled in, the machine is going to read it.
Cameron, what about the event? What are you going to be doing with people on Saturday?
So at the event, we hope everyone comes out. It's a all-age event, and we're going to be showcasing the new voting equipment, so attendees will have a chance to actually interact and test out the new equipment ahead of the September 24th preliminary municipal election as well as November 5th.
Jeff, you also introduced this equipment to people who work for the election department. How did that go?
Very well. We had a pretty thorough analysis done by the department. There was a bid process, so we had to do multiple demonstrations before we were awarded. Since that point, we've actually done a lot of training for wardens and clerks over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it has been received very well from all of those folks so far.
Cameron, how important is that for dealing with the voters? Because you have people in the room where people vote, and sometimes there are things that we don't get. They're simple as it turns out, but we need help sometimes.
Yeah, no, this is very important because it helps to make the process more efficient. It helps to speed it up so that less people are disenfranchised by long lines and things of the such. And also, one thing I'd like to add about this new technology is that it does have a language feature so that when that messaging is being made to the voter, it can be made in a language that is more comfortable to them. So that's one thing that we're definitely excited about.
Jeff, another thing that people might have asked, because we're using old technology as part of this, paper and pen essentially, but people, they must ask you occasionally, why can't we do this on a computer? What do you tell them?
Well, there are companies that do that. In the Commonwealth, it's not anything that's certified. Paper-based system is what we use here in Massachusetts and most of New England. And the reason for that is just the auditability. So we have a verified record of how the voter voted that's captured and secured. And in the case of Massachusetts now, they have post-election auditing that occurs after certain elections where a random selection of ballots are actually hand counted to match up against the machine to make sure that everything was working properly.
And I guess you also have to protect the privacy of the vote too, right?
Correct, yes. It becomes difficult on a strictly computer-based or an internet voting scenario where you want to have the integrity of the vote and maintain the privacy of the voter. And to this point, paper and pen is the easiest, most efficient way to be successful at that.
This is BNN News. We're talking with Kyron Owens from the Boston Election Department and Jeff Silvestro from LHS Associates. Kyron, one other thing that comes into my head about elections, if people go to a polling place and something looks a little strange or a little different, even if it's not all that complicated, they get suspicious, they get uneasy, the social media is wild about it,
Yes.
I guess that's what you're trying to avoid, isn't it?
Yes, so with the Expo, we do want to limit some of that confusion. And so to address that, we thought that this community event would be a great way to get people out, to test out the machine, ask questions. We'll have a bunch of experts there. I believe Jeff will be there. And so you can really have that hands-on training, get all your questions answered, so that way when you go into the voting booth on September 24th, on November 5th, you're prepared and you're ready to go. Some other things I'd like to mention about the Expo, there is a resource component to it. So we will have a bunch of city agencies tabling at the event, in addition to some non-city agencies tabling. Just name a few: Common Cause. We'll have the Census Bureau there. ABCD will be there, just to name a few. So this is a really great event to get connected to the resources, to prepare yourself for the upcoming elections. You can register to vote there. You can check your voter status. You can find out how to become a poll worker or get access to any other election resources in the city of Boston. So we encourage that. The mayor will be there, and so we're looking forward to it.
Now, I know that there's no early voting this year. It's election day. It's the election day. But another important date is when people have to be registered to take part. What is that exactly?
Yes. So for the September 24th preliminary municipal election, it is September 4th. And if you're going to come down to our office in room 241 of Boston City Hall, you have to be there before 8 p.m. Now, if you register online, you have until 11:59 on September 4th to register for the September 24th preliminary municipal election.
And finally, the hours for the event on Saturday at the Reggie Lewis Center?
It will be from 11 to 2.
All right, thank you both very much, Kyron Owens and Jeff Silvestro.
Thank you.
Thank you.